Moana. Welcome to everybody, and welcome to Lisa. What's your name, Ross? Who is replacing Sarah, and of course to Linda and all of our councillors and our staff to this meeting today. And I just want to stand in acknowledgement of our anniversary today of Cyclone Gabrielle, and this morning in our CEDAM meeting. We all had an opportunity there to share some thoughts about the impact of Cyclone Gabrielle, and just remember the year that we've had, and looking forward to the next part. I hope. I'll open us with a Karakia, travelling Karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te tonga, whakataka te hau ki te uru, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hia ki ana te ata, kura he tio, he huka, he haunga, ti hei, mauri ora. Right, everybody. Okay, we have apologies from Her Worship, the Mayor, for she has other events on today, and she may arrive late. No declarations of interest, no leaves of absence. All acknowledgements and tributes, of course, we're just acknowledging that this is the first anniversary of Cyclone Gabrielle, and the impact that it's had on our roading network, which will be higher in our thoughts at this particular meeting. There are no public input and petitions, no extraordinary business, no notices of motion, no agenda business, and we are up to reports of the Chief Executive and staff for decision. Although first, before we do anything else, we have the appointment of the Regional Transport Committee Deputy Chairperson. And thank you, Heather, for putting us right and doing the report, making sure we get all of this correct. So it says here on page 6 that when electing a Deputy Mayor, Committee Chair or Deputy Chair, the local authority must resolve to use one of the following voting systems. So candidate will be elected or appointed if he or she receives a vote from the majority of members. So do we have any, well, I think this is sort of just a process we're going through. Somebody nominating?
I'll nominate Teddy.
Councillor Telfer nominates Councillor Thompson. Do we have a seconder? Are you seconding Councillor Gregory?
I'm just wondering whether we passed the minutes.
We have to do this because the report wasn't written. So we have to go through this and then...
No, you're right, Deb.
The minutes from the last meeting.
Minutes from the last meeting haven't been done.
Last meeting.
Oh, sorry.
Through you, Chair, they were done at extraordinary.
Oh, then where?
They were done at the previous meeting, the extraordinary.
Just a bit confused.
Okay, I'm just following my agenda.
That's right. Thank you, Heather.
So we're back to nominating. We have a nomination for Councillor Thompson. And we're getting a seconder. And I'll second from the chair if I'm allowed. Okay. Do we have any other nominations for deputy? No? Right. Okay. So, in that case, we should ask Councillor Thompson if he accepts. We move and shake this. Yeah, so I'll move. Sorry, Councillor Gregory? Yes. You want to move it?
Yes. No, it's already been moved. Don't we have to vote?
Yes, we vote. Okay, so all in favour?
Do we have to raise our hands?
Yes, let's raise our hands, shall we? Any against? Okay. Congratulations, Councillor Thompson. You're the chair of the Regional Transport Committee. Rightio, let's move right along to our business of the day. So we hand it over to my right.
Yeah, straight to Charlotte, I think.
For our Regional Land Transport Plan, the monitoring report. Thank you, Charlotte.
Oh good. I won't go into too much detail about it. I think you can hopefully start to see a little bit of progress as each new quarter report comes through. It's slow, but we're at a red, so that's nice. And in the report, I think there was a couple of mentions of updates on a couple of areas, so I'll just pass over to the Lifeline staff for those. Unless anyone had any questions for me first.
No, any questions, or shall we? Yes, Rob?
Just page 14, quarterly report. There's just something that I'm wondering about how we go about this for the future, and I know that we're in the middle of contracts with Fulton Hogan, etc. But just the line here, second paragraph around Cyclone Hale and Gabriel. In Q3 of the previous financial year have heavily impacted the condition of our network and also the progress on BAU works. And we've talked about this elsewhere. It tends to be a situation where BAU, business as usual, road maintenance seems to go on hold and the emergency works all take. And I'm wondering whether or not in the future we can look at our contract, the way our contracts are done, whether or not business as usual can be a separate component and we have the emergency works as separate. We can bring have other contractors to come in and do that extra stuff, but the business as usual stuff, the maintenance of our roads keeps going, because if we look at the condition of our roads over the last, there's a graph for 6 years or something, and it's just falling. And it's not all to do with flooding and slips. And so it's just a comment, but I'm just wondering, the situation doesn't seem to be working 100% now, whether we can improve the way we do our contracts in the future.
Is that possible?
I'll look at the operations
Mr.
team.
Barry.
I'll let Libby go second, but to Rob's point, I think our BA, we've been meeting BAU. That the challenge has been, correct me if I'm wrong, Libby, we've been meeting BAU. The challenge is that the roads have been deteriorating greater than BAU's even been able to maintain. In nature to these events. So the challenge, I guess, is even with BAU being met, they're still deteriorating. So it's a funding issue within BAU. We've still been doing BAU in short in the existing loading. And maybe Libby, you can add a bit to that, but that's the scenario we're in. Our road network is deteriorating despite the investments we're putting in over time at BAU level. On top of that, we're also recovering. So we haven't been doing one in spite of the other. We've been doing both.
So through you, Chair, just to lean into the answer a little bit further. So this week you would have seen circulated through to all councillors the current 3-year funding period that we're in. It was signalled to council we're $161 million underfunded for roading in this 3-year period. This 3-year period ends 30th of June this year. So how that funding bucket with Waka Kotahi works is we can move money within those 3 years. We now are at a firm end where we cannot exceed that budget because it is a total cap of our 3-year fund, and there is no more money for us to apply for our operations, maintenance and renewals work. We have achieved program over the last 3 years, and we continue to achieve program this year. That's for road resurfacing, road patches, all of that type of work. It's all been done within our contract negotiated rates. What we are finding is the deterioration of the network, as Tim leaned into, is essentially delivering what we expected. It is deteriorating because we don't have enough business as usual funds to keep on top of the age of the network we have. In terms of the current update, I will just head straight on into that. We have 20% of this year's budget remaining for road maintenance and renewals. We have delivered a program. We've been able to pull through some sites from next year into this year because of the significance of the issues. An example of that is Bloomfield Road. We are going to be treading a very tight rope between now and the 30th of June because with just basic road sweeping, replacing broken stop signs and the very basic items to keep our network somewhat safe will consume the remaining budget we have. So effectively, any additional items we do, such as potholing, road nettling, any grading or road maintenance that is over and above our schedule, we will have funding. We will have funding constraints between now and 30 June.
Thank you, Libby. Appreciate that detail. Yeah, but thank you. Rob, do you want to add to that?
No, I'm just looking at sometimes if the system isn't working, people doing the same thing, but gets the same result. So I'm just thinking about the future, whether or not there's a possibility to have a look at how we do stuff.
Okay. Are there any other questions, or happy to wait until Tim finishes? Oh.
Yeah, thanks for that, Libby. It's good to hear exactly how it is and not tell us what we want to hear. Page 27, footpath, 22, the Ever campaign. I was wondering if there is the reactions on that, if there's much feedback.
Maria, do you want
Yeah, I can. Through Chair, so we had very mixed reactions on the campaign, as expected. It was targeted at 18 to 30-year-olds, which they received it quite well. We had positive feedback that we were speaking their language to them, and they appreciated the campaign. So we ran that over the Christmas and New Year's period for those coming in for R&V, as well as our local community age.
And in terms of kids and elderly, was there many complaints? Or?
Not from the younger age group, but from the elderly there was. And our response was that it's interpreted as how you would like to see it. So you can put in which words you would like to choose.
Oh, sorry, Teddy, just in addition to that question while we're on the campaign, thanks for the photos and the report on that. I enjoyed seeing that and reading it. So given the effort that went into the campaign, which seemed to go really well, especially around R&V and the giveaways and things that you had and the games on the side of the road, were there any traffic offences during R&V?
Through Chair, no, there wasn't during the checkpoints that we attended. However, there were traffic offenders from the RMVs leaving the site on the last day. Right. We did breathalyse 1,400 drivers at the fatigue stop that day, and all passed. There were no detection of alcohol.
Okay. Well, good job. Job well done there.
Sorry, page 27 with the footpath faults. Yeah, I sort of found when I was there, most of the faults were the trees and that sort of lines. Report, and there's areas that have been replaced numerous times, and some of those areas replaced might just last a year. I'd like to suggest that with all the trees removed, we don't replace it because it's just, sometimes it just lasts a year. It's just the waste should be taking the trees out before we do any of those repairs.
One footpath, yeah. Great. Any other questions? Thank you.
Just referring to the change of speed limits rule on page 24. I just don't quite understand what's going on there, that the government's 100-day plan has included some changes to that, but yet maybe not here. Is that what I'm reading? Is that correct?
If you're itching to answer the question, you can answer it.
Yeah, I covered it in an update in our slide, but announced by the Minister of Transport recently the current setting of speed limits rule that was introduced under the previous government he's indicated that they will be developing a new rule. So they will make changes to the rule that was just introduced. So what all road controlling authorities were advised is that the requirement to develop a speed management plan for all parts of your network is now discretionary, whereas in the previous government it was mandatory. So you have discretion on that. That doesn't mean, as you're a road controlling authority, you still have the ability to set speed limits. So it doesn't take that away from you in any stretch of the imagination, but the requirement to actually develop a full speed management plan and review all of your speed limits is discretionary now rather than mandatory. What we have noted though is the councils have all responded to that in different ways right across the country. So some have paused because the minister is signalling he'll develop a new rule. So they're going to pause and sit and wait to see what that rule means for them. Others have decided that they've progressed down this pathway and there's strong community support for safer speeds in particular areas. So that could be outside schools, marae, urapa, could be through kind of urban areas or in town centres. And they've chosen to still progress with those as the road controlling authority, but on a more discrete basis where they've got community support or high risk areas. Does that help?
Yes, but do we have someone here that can tell us exactly what Gisborne District Council is doing?
So you may recall in the previous training we started the speed limits bylaw review, and not long after that the new rule came in. So that speed limits bylaw review got retooled into what's currently lodged with Waka Kotahi as our interim speed management plan under that current rule. So I guess the final plan that Linda was referring to, there was a time frame on that. That was one of the concessions we had got with Cyclone Gabrielle anyway. So we had an extension anyway before the new government got elected. So the work in terms of developing the full final plan is on hold as of last year and still remains on hold. And now given that there is probably going to be a new rule, we probably won't unpause it until we get more certainty. Yeah. It feels like a bit of a circle, sorry. But
I see.
Yeah, so those speed limits we did change were targeted to areas outside schools and particularly sort of high-risk areas and where there was strong community support for.
Yeah, so those ones that are in that interim speed management plan, which indicated some change from, I guess, what was the status quo at the time, through the budget that we have, we are progressing those particular ones and kind of a
Oh, that's fantastic, thank you.
I'll just add to that one while we're on that page. I've had lots of great feedback from the smaller communities up the coast about the 30k signs and the 40k signs that have gone in. The only thing they've asked for is that there's not enough of them. So there's one at the beginning of the township, one at the other end of the township, but all the action is happening in the middle. So if people are not going outside, then they're still in the habit of going, 50, 60, and they've just asked, can they have like more 30k signs? To remind, especially the locals who are used to driving at that speed, they know they've got to slow down. We've had people monitoring the speeding, chasing people going to slow down, it's now 30 k's, not me, but other people. And so but they have appreciated seeing all the signage going in, and just asking about school zone signs, if those, I guess I've seen them on the on the highways, the sparkly ones, neon ones, those ones, but just ones that are a bit more, or speed bumps or something outside of this, if there aren't any other deterrences from slowing people down. Those are just my thoughts on that particular one. Oh, and you've been waiting patiently. Oh, sorry, Debbie, we'll come.
I just have one other small question relating to what's happening in Grey Street or not happening in Grey Street. With the that funding, I'm just wondering what's the delay there.
Pastor L'Oreal, who is
through Chair, we had to make some slight changes to the design, and we are just waiting for those costings to come in. So once we get those, we'll definitely be able to give a new installation date as soon as we can. Hopefully, the delay won't be too much longer. So it's still happening. We're just waiting for those last details.
Thanks. Sorry. Okay. Colin.
Thank you, Chair.
How are you?
So page 34, customer satisfaction. I don't quite understand the line and the graph below that. Can someone explain what the orange and the blue is?
Oh, hang on, let me just bring it up.
Same questions.
Sorry, yes, I will remind myself to put a note. So the blue, which is above the line, represents the responses on the spectrum for that question, which is, I guess, a positive response in response to that question, whereas the orange ones, which are below the line, are the, I guess, the negative, there's, I don't think there's a fence sitting one, but I would have to double check, but I'll add a little explanation there for next time.
So on the indicator, it says the percentage of customer satisfaction within conditions of our local roads in the district is improving.
Yes,
so
that's...
How's that? And yet the graph shows dissatisfaction increasing.
Yeah, so the indicator that's listed there, that reflects the question that's asked. So the question that's actually asked is of people is, do you think the condition of the local roads in the districts is improving for this particular survey?
The answer is no.
Supplementary question. As council, we have the right to rate, we have the right to borrow, and we have the right to spend. Do we really have the right to sit by and watch our incredibly valuable asset, our roading system? Are we also empowered to sit by and watch that deteriorate?
Is that a question?
I'd like to out there question.
It's really a question for yourselves as governors to answer through your 3-year plan and the funding allocation you make to roading activities, also acknowledging that Waka, Kotahi, the transport agency, was got there in terms of funding.
And it's a matter of budget, and that's set by us as councillors. Right.
And affordability.
And affordability, yeah, and having the money.
But we have the right to borrow. So can we not solve this problem some way?
I don't think that's for this committee to
This
decide.
committee.
That's for council.
Or our finance, maybe, finance and risk. Okay, I had a couple of questions. Or I'm happy to wait for Tim, but were you going to add something? No? Okay, thanks. Page 25. Find it. Page 25, something about end of 2026. Right, so So just under public transport, 9 of our 10 new ADL buses have been rewired and will be ready for the service when the 2024 school year starts. And then the next one, expected delay of 6 months for national ticketing solution implementation for Gisborne, and it's looking more like the end of 2026. It's not 6 months.
Oh, so it's a delay of 6 months of what was the previous deadline, which was early 26. Sorry.
So it was a year longer.
Yeah. It's not just for us. That delay is consistent across all regions. But that's 6 months added.
And then on page 27, it's on the computer, so I've got it marked on my own hard copy, but the RFSs that came in are assessed against the priority matrix for footpath cycleway faults. It's about 7th point down. As a result, not every RFS will have an action undertaken. So are the people who put in the RFS informed that theirs isn't a priority and won't be done in the future?
Still the baby.
Through you, Chair, yes, we have implemented that response framework, so everyone that does submit about what RFSs should be contacted, about how it's been rated and the likely time lag before such fault would be seen. In addition to that, if it deteriorates, we recommend that they contact us back so we can do a reassessment if something changes.
Well, once the action's been taken, is that RFS logged as resolved?
Correct.
Any other questions? Statement? No? Okay. Sharp, do you have anything else to add? Joe?
No, nothing more than that.
Nothing?
Thank you. No.
Oh, okay. Must be waiting, we're waiting for Linda.
It's all on.
Linda, you have the floor with what oh, sorry, do we need to move this?
Yes.
Sorry, my head is all over the place. Can we please just note for the page? We are noting the contents of this report.
So you can tell us some answers to some.
Well, the only thing was if you wanted an update on emergency works, we normally cover that in the monitoring report, and we didn't this time round.
Okay.
Just due to time constraints, so it's entirely up to you. It's not really part of the monitoring report, but it's something that's usually covered off.
Tim, would you like to take the time to give us an update on emergency works before we move to Waka?
Well, emergency works, is that covered this morning with
Sticking with my committee, if you're okay with
Yeah, but it was sort of probably leading on from Debbie's question this morning was around we're getting the reports of the funding that's coming into the region or being approved to come into the region, but councillors, we were sort of wanting an update of where it's going and what because we get questions fired at us all the time and we get glazed over what it's going, where's the money all gone. So it's probably just it's not trying to get into the operational side of it, but it's trying to give us a tool to be able to say, well, this is where it's going and whatnot, and how much has been spent. So.
Okay, so we need clarity on what the buckets of funding are and then what they relate to. I haven't got anything prepared for that, but it is complex. How that's managed and where it's sitting and whether it's available to utilise or in train and not yet available. So sorry, I don't have anything to hand at the moment.
Yeah.
I can prioritize. We're prioritising that, Councillor.
Through you, your chair, it's not really something you'd expect to be covered in the Regional Transport Planning Committee because we are planning for, the future management of the network and the land transport network. In Tim's defence, we wouldn't really expect him to have a detailed breakdown of expenditure.
Yeah, so just for clarification, is that probably more finance and performance?
Absolutely.
So we can bring it up.
I just think it'd be good just to have a high level, there's a lot of comments that, Heather can.
Through you, Chair, there is a process of asking for a report to go to a committee or to council.
Okay.
And I suggest that rather than it's ad hoc discussion here, it's actually done by the councillors.
Okay, thank
To
you.
the Chief Executive, please.
Thank you. All right, okay, sorry Linda, we'll come back to you. Did we move it?
I don't think so.
Oh, sorry. Good grief. Okie dokie. Can we please note our quarterly report? Somebody give me to do that? Thank you, Debbie. Seconded by Rob. Oh, Councillor Telfer. All in favour? Aye. Carried. Thank you. Third time lucky.
Just the suspense and building. Okay, you have the detailed pack, which probably fills you in a bit more on the operational activity that's happening right across the network. I'll run through high-level presentation, usual format, few slides on national activity, most of which was covered in excellent officers' reports. So we'll be even more speedy through this. And then a little bit of an update on our work against the RLTP. We'll just touch on a little bit of the recovery planning work, and then we have the session later on with the TREC team that'll get into a bit more detail on that. So the first one here is just regarding the 24-27 NLTP development. The slide's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously the council and the officers done a huge amount of work on getting the draft RLTP ready and out for consultation. This is just noting that we are still waiting for the new draft GPS that is part of the government's 100-day plan to be released. We are expecting that imminently, so within the next few weeks. And that's about all I can say on that one. An update here, you'll probably have seen this in the media coverage. All of us, apart from EV users to this date, contribute to wear and tear on the roads in some way, shape or form through road user charges or through fuel excise duty. Electric vehicle owners have been exempt from that since I think it was back in 2009. That was put in place actually. It was an interesting thing I didn't know until electric vehicles made up around 2% of our national fleet, which has now been triggered. As a result of that, and it was work that was started last year, the policy work to look at how much and how electric vehicle users and FEV users, plug-in hybrid vehicle users, should be paying. They are now moving towards a contribution via road user charges, and it will be a very similar system to those of us that use diesel vehicles. They will be required to display on the windscreens now going forwards. That comes into effect, I think it's from May. There is a little bit of grace time to get everything organised, but they'll have to display that, pay up front for their kilometres travelled, which I think makes a lot of sense to everybody wear and tear on the roads. Everybody's got a responsibility for contribution. And I think we covered this with the great questions earlier. Just an update that when it comes to the state highway speed management activity, we're in a similar boat where our work is paused on the full state highway speed management plan, and we're waiting advice and guidance on the outcome of our interim state highway speed management plan. There has been quite a bit of interest in that because again it was looking primarily at safer speeds that were proposed outside schools, urban areas, communities along state highways that experience severance, Marae, Urupa, but at this at this stage we've had to pause that and await further guidance from the Minister and through the GPS. So as soon as we get any more information, we will let you know. If you do have any queries on that from your community, I've been getting a number of queries, send them my way, we'll keep them informed. Just an update on our RLTP activities. Not a huge amount to update on this. Probably most important or of interest is the Waka Gorge business case. The Trek team are taking the lead on that, and I think we've got a report we're aiming for that to go to the NZTA board in around May this year. The 50 max bridges, I haven't just missed a box at the bottom right, removed that from there. The Gisborne District Council for the remaining planned structures did a bit of work and looked at the quality of those bridges, and they were found not to need any further work. So the full programme that you committed to has been completed, is my understanding. Streets for People. Covered that as well. It's excellent. I'd just like to see a big, or give a bit of recognition to council and community here in both Gisborne and also up at Uawa. Of all of the councils that have been participating in this project, Gisborne probably together is stretching the furthest in terms of community partnership through Streets for People. That's got to be commended, but it also as well comes with a lot of challenges and complexities and takes a lot of extra work. So just recognising that additional work, that it's not straightforward, but it does help us to achieve great community-centric outcomes. We had a good update on the Grey Street one, which I think has attracted quite a bit of interest, but also as well on the State Highway 35 work on Uawa, which has also been a much anticipated project for that community. It's long story short, trying to make sure that we sequence it, because that part of the state highway is going to have some maintenance work done on it. So if we could do the work all at the one time, be seamless, more efficient use of resources and get a better outcome than doing a bit of work and then coming back and doing more work. But yeah, really, really positive work on that. So thank you very much to you and the community. Just a bit of an update, because blimey, there's been a lot of activity right across the state highway network. Some of these figures as an update on our summer maintenance programme, I got them at the end of January. They might be a little bit out of date. There'll be a bit more work done. But you'll be aware our maintenance and operations and the NOC contracts have moved into Trek. They're managing it, so they've got a full view of the activity that's happening across the corridor, from a business as usual maintenance work alongside ongoing response and recovery work. Looks like we are at this stage, the advice is that we are on track to complete our summer maintenance and ops programmes right across Tairafiti, which is positive. And you'll have noted that there's a little bit more information on both the asphalting and the foam bitumen stabilisation work we've been doing on State Highway 2 in your detailed pack as well. But it's been going well. The weather's been forgiving for maintenance work so far. Just on the recovery work I mentioned there, it's ongoing is the easiest way to sum that up. We've been working through, the Trek team have been working through quite a substantive prioritisation of the sites, and that's mainly been on the basis of one, securing the asset, and then secondly, to restore it back to 2 lanes where it has been reduced as rapidly as is safe and as is possible. Just to put into context the amount of work that has happened in 2023, 99 recovery sites were rectified or remedied post-cyclone. So there's been a huge amount of work. There's still a huge amount of work. I think it says there is nearly 200, 193 still to go. And the other part, and we'll hear a little bit more about that later, just on that last bullet point, we are at the moment commencing investigations to the permanent replacement of Hikawai number 1 and number 2 bridge. which will be great for the community and those that are travelling up and down that part of State Highway 35. A little bit more detail on some of the recovery work. The ones up there are all in progress. I would just say some are, as always with these things, a little bit more complicated than when they first look once you start to get into them, but good progress being made across them. There are a number of other sites. We've got the Turitaka erosion repair on State Highway 35. There's a slip up Hixby, State Highway 35, and also the Maraitaha Bridge repairs on 2 that are just in the final designs and will be starting soon. So we're working through it in a systematic way, but the job, just like for yourselves on your local roads, is a substantive one. And then lastly, at the last RTC, we provided an update. If we kind of rewind the clock a little bit, NZTA had put together what was called the Resilience Strategic Response business cases. We had one for Tairāwhiti and Wairoa and one for Hawke's Bay, and that was to look at the entirety of the network, the highest risk resilience sites, and what we would want to prioritise and how much money that would cost if it was of no object. That went to and was endorsed by the board in 2023, mid to end 2023. Just a bit of an update, and again, we'll hear a little bit more about this from Trek, building you up, Mel and team, if you're online somewhere in the ether. A little bit more of the detail later on, but the work under Trek is progressing to have a look at more detailed business case work on the highest risk and highest priority sites on 35 and also on 2. So we'll get into a little bit more of the detail there. Also as well, the process that we're using to do that, noting too that this is the part that will help us to attract and secure, hopefully, funding from the Crown for this work across your region. And that's all from me. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Linda. Yes, Peter?
Yes, just a question on Grey Street. As mentioned in that report, the final design consultation. My understanding that they're going to put cones up and trial it with cones. Has that already happened?
Oh, I can't answer that.
The cones won't be used for the trial. We do temporary changes to the actual road itself rather than through traffic management to trial and the new changes.
So it was mentioned final design consultation. So is it final design for the trial?
That was just for the design that happened prior to Christmas, where we did a roadshow with the community for drop-in sessions on the design, and we had a project page up for people to have their say on the design as well, for feedback.
So the design is temporary. So the idea behind Cats and People was about being able to trial and use these temporary mechanisms for a pathway to permanence. And the permanent solution may or may not look like what was temporarily there. So, yes.
Okay, so we're still yet to put up the temporary solution. Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, that was great.
Rob? Go on.
It's probably just a repeat of this morning, really. Without specifics, we're just getting a lot of, as councillors, we're getting a lot of comments come to us at the moment around contractors that are sitting there with gear and staff and not actually, the work's not, being told there's not the money there yet or whatever. And some of them are saying to us, look, we can't just about hold on any longer. We have to start laying staff off and getting rid of machinery and whatnot. And they're saying, we've got this beautiful weather window, and next minute we're into wet season, and next minute it's all put off for next year. That's probably where we were coming from a little bit. Is there any mechanisms? We're being told that this money's there, and promises being made that there's money coming, but then there seems to be a process that starts on how it comes and how long it's going to take to come. And we seem to be, there's a weather window that we haven't seen for a long time, and we potentially miss out. So there's the mechanisms where we know this money's coming, but it can be, it's almost like a bridging finance situation that people use if they're doing work themselves. Or is it strictly until the money arrives you can't do anything?
I would probably need to defer to your officers when it comes to financial side, and your procurement processes for local roads. Can certainly speak to on the state highway. We don't have certainty that there's money coming for the longer term rebuild work. We have the money that we have at the moment, which is funding the ongoing response, recovery and the maintenance work. Just to be very blunt, we'll hear a little bit more about what we're proposing through the business case to secure funding for, and it is having to be prioritised, so we're not going to be able to do everything all at once. But the business case work and the engagement with yourselves, with iwi hapu, with the community, will help to inform that, and also help to inform you to be able to advocate for that money for the big rebuild work. We are acutely aware of the pressure that's on local businesses to both not just retain their existing staff, but to keep going at a pace that allows them to scale up to be able to take advantage of this work when it comes online. Both Waka, Kotahi, also Kiwi Rail, but through Trek, the contractors, we've been holding a number, and I think we've got a couple coming up, a number of contractor huis to try and keep them informed and give them visibility of both the pipeline of work that's coming and how they can take advantage of it, should they. But also as well, some of the reality is that we've only at the moment got so much funding for so much of that programme, which is what I was trying to outline earlier. So we are in a challenging state when it comes to anything beyond our initial response, recovery and BAU maintenance until we know what funding we can secure for the rebuild. And that will be a separate pool of money. It'll be Crown funded rather than through the NLTF. So there will be different processes in terms of how that money flows into NZTA or into Trek and then goes out into the market rather than kind of our standard knock work or capital projects. But I can't comment on how it works for your local roads, I'm afraid, Councillor.
Okay, I have a question about State Highway 35.
Sure.
Which I drove down yesterday.
Yes.
Because page 38 in our report, it says Kopuarua complete. Part of it is complete, but either side of it is not complete. Either side of it is still much of how it has been for some time, with lots of subsidence. D9 doesn't seem to have any work being done on it. At the moment, it had some work done on it, but again, it's a bit like patchwork quilt. There's parts that have been done and other parts that are just as bad as previously. And then it's good to see Busby Hill. There's quite a lot of action happening up and around there yesterday, and also at Kopuarua. But as I say, just down from Kopuarua, there's still a bit of a mess. I guess I don't know. These might be questions for T-Rec in terms of how does the program of work get undertaken, or what does it look like? Because it doesn't make, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me, and I'm not an engineer or anything, but that there's a great deal of effort spent here, but just 500 metres down the road, nothing done. Main concern is that we have families who are waiting for their homes, and I've brought this up several times before. Their houses that are waiting to be moved up the state highway to come up the coast, right up the coast, and as Rob has alluded to, we have this amazing weather happening, and they are told there's certain patches of the road that the houses won't make it past. So they can't get the houses up the state highway, therefore they're still waiting. Now they've been waiting already for over a year, so in some cases, for those homes to arrive. And we would hope and expect that those homes will be in place well before winter, so that their families are out of sheds and, you know, whatever they've been living in for the last 3 years to be in their home. So, yeah, I'm just confused as to how, in terms of priorities, where those areas sit.
There was a lot in there. I'll do my best, but come back if I don't quite cover it all. So when I was taking through the slides, I mentioned that our primary focus through the response and into recovery is to stabilise the asset and return it back to 2 lanes. And that's what's happening. That's the activity that you're seeing on the network. So Kokoroa Hill, for example, is addressing that section that was primarily impacted. You know, when we drive along the road and we come to the bit just before or just after, we do wonder, why is that not addressed? The funding that we have in the prioritise is to retain the integrity of the most damaged bit of state highway, and that's how that decision is made and the funding is prioritised. We simply don't have enough money at the moment to do everything, so that's why it does seem to be done in sections. I did inquire about D9 before I came because I just wanted to check. The slip site has been repaired. Yeah. There is a bit of investigation into the traffic management just because of some visibility, see how we can improve that at the tight corner at the top of the hill. The narrow sections there are a little bit more challenging. So we're having to do a bit of further work to actually understand what we can do within the funds that we've got on those narrow sections. And the team also advised that they're looking at what is possible in terms of getting some seal down, even holding over the winter, to retain what's there. But again, it's done in a priority way to protect the network as opposed to doing big sweeping sections of it. When we're looking at the longer term rebuild, we look at the whole corridor, and that is what it will do. You'll hear a little bit on, say, State Highway 2, for example, looking at the corridor and then prioritising from there what are the parts that we really need to focus on. With regards to the housing, we need to get that sorted out. I was under the impression that it was getting sorted out, so I'll take that as an action, Chair, to take that up with the network manager now within TREC as to how that's getting progressed, because we have been able to get houses to other areas where the state highway is constrained, so we need to address that.
Any other questions, councillors? Oh, 10 to 2.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Debbie. We will move Linda's report. Seconder. Thank you, Teddy. Thompson. All in favour? Aye. So we are going to close this part of the meeting at. Oh,
No, you need to move to go into public.
sorry, I move in first. Okay. So we're going to move into public excluded. Thank you, Debbie. Rob, thank you. Moving into public excluded, all in favour.